Hey guys, this is going to be part 2 of the Blues Harp series, short mini series on basics of blues harp, things to think about. Got some questions from a friend online at a great site, by the way, called Music Shack. I'll leave the address at the end of this video or in a future installment. But anyway, friend Lee Bob asked about some basics of a blues harp, so we'll go through some of that today. Okay, welcome back. Some people, especially my friend online, Lee Bob, asked some questions about where to start. What are some of the basics and how do I get going? He actually had I think he had a C Special 20 in his drawer as he was watching and listening to the last video, and he said, you know what, I don't know where to start with this. And same thing happened to me for many years. My dad was a harmonica player, not a blues guy, a straight blues harp player, and he could pull melodies out of I don't know where. He played a diatonic harp like this, 10-hole, and he could basically play, he fudged his way through chromatic stuff all the time, just by ear. So I kind of heard it a lot growing up, but I had some of these in my drawer for years, different harmonicas, and I would try it and I'd take it out. Okay, I guess I'll learn that later, right? So eventually I kind of decided to force myself to bust this thing. And I started to listen and watch, and I would actually go out at night. I didn't want to bother the family while they're sleeping, but I'm a night person, so I'd actually take the car to a parking lot and just try to figure this thing out until I got it, for hours. It's not all that hard if someone else is helping you figure it out. I had to kind of do this on my own, or at least a lot of it. But here's the deal. Songs are all in a particular key. That's called the key signature, right? I don't want to get into too much theory, but every melody can start at a different place. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, right? And on so on and so forth. You could actually start a song at any different place, and that different starting place is called the key, or the key signature, right? The beginning, usually the beginning of that song starts on the beginning note of the scale that's associated with that key. So you can have a song in the key of C, you can have a song in the key of F, B flat, G, A, and so on. The musical alphabet only goes A through G, there's no H. Not in this country anyway. So, what do we do? Okay, well, every harmonica is stamped. Let's see if you can see this one. I don't know if you will be able to or not. But on the edge there, this one is stamped F. Right? This is the one we used in the last harmonica video. There's C harps, B flat harps, G harps, and all different keys, right? F harps. And if you're what's called a straight harp player, a la Neil Young, or others, that a lot of folk players will play in the key that the harp is, quote, made to play in, right? So that's all major melodies and kind of skipping around the major scale, because it's not super easy to get all the notes of the major scale out of, you can, but out of a diatonic harp or 10-hole harp. But it's arranged in such a way that you really can't make mistakes. It sounds nice no matter where you are, right? Right? Blowing and drawing notes, pushing air out and pulling it in, sucking it in. So that is the layout of a major scale diatonic harp. But just coincidentally, the way they designed this instrument hundreds of years ago happens to be laid out great to play the blues. There are different positions you can play the harp in, and the most popular and easy one for playing blues is called cross harp, or second position they call it. I usually think of it as first because I don't really play much straight harp at all. But this would be considered to most people second position, or cross harp. So what you do, you take the key that's stamped on the end there. This one is F, right? I have the right side again? Okay, this is F. So what happens is you count up 4 from that key. F, G, A, B. This one happens to be played in B flat then. Okay, that's some tricky stuff we can get into later. Just kind of memorize the 4 and 5, all right? Count up 4 from the key of the harp. Or if you want to play in the key of B flat, count up 5 from there, right? B, C, D, E, F, right? So you use an F harp. If you have a C harp, you play in the key of G, either 5 up from C, C, D, E, F, G, or if you want to play in the key, right, you count the other way. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to play the F harp in the key of B flat. 4 up from the stamped on key, right? So that way you can do this. You can play your basic 1, 4, 5 chords, they're called, right? The 3 chords that make up the blues. Those changes are called, for reasons that we'll perhaps discuss later, 1, 4, and 5 chords. They correspond with the first position, 4th, and 5th of the scale that they're based on. You're going to take your mouth and play the first 3-ish holes, right, on this side by drawing in. All right, that's your 1 chord, which in this case is a B flat. Right? If you blow out over the same area, right, to move your mouth just a little bit to the right, you're going to get the 4 chord, the 2nd chord in the blues. And then if you move over one more little section, right there, and draw in, you get the 5 chord. So you have the 3 chords or harmonies that work with a 12-bar blues, which are called the 1, 4, and 5 chords, and they go like this. And you've heard that in thousands of songs, literally. So you have 1 chord, draw, in, right? 4 chord, blow, out. 5 chord, move up a little bit and draw in. So what you're going to practice is rhythm first. Rhythm is real important, and it's something that people miss. They learn how to play, they learn how to pucker or tongue block and play some solos, and then they really don't have any rhythm, and that's no good. So let's start with a rhythm, right? Pretty much every song you're going to hear on the radio, every song in the blues catalog is going to be in 4/4 time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Either straight time, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, or a shuffle, 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 1, a 2. So we're going to count to 4, and then we're going to play these chords through 12 bars, 12 counts of 4, right? And then repeat it over and over again. That's what the basic blues is. 12-bar blues is 12 bars or counts of 4, 12 measures of 4, counted that many times and then repeated with those chords. So we have, once again, the 1 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord, 5 minor on this really, but don't sweat it. So we're going to now do that as a shuffle. I did not come up with this technique. Jerry Portnoy, who has a great resource that I'll get to later in another video when we talk about resources, he had a great whole course on this, and this was one of his lessons. Jerry Portnoy played with Eric Clapton for years. I'm not sure he still does. But you're going to say the word hutta, hutta. Say hutta out, hutta, hutta. And then say the same thing drawing in. Hutta, hutta, hutta. Sounds weird, right? But now, check it out. That's out. That's in. So you'll start with hutta in, hutta, and then out, hutta, out, hutta, 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 on the harp, because that would just be weird, right? That's on the 1 chord. That's that rhythm just on the 1 chord. Then you try to move it. Move it along so you have your 1 chord, your 4 chord, and your 5 chord, and you do that within a 12-bar framework, which would sound something like this. If you're counting while I'm doing this, you should be able to get to 1, 2, 3, 4, 12 times. Then you'll hear the pattern repeat again. Something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that was 2 times through the whole 12 bar. If you can play along with, if you can find some records, CDs, songs online to play along with in the key of your harp, or not in the key of your harp, but the key you want to play in with your harp, that would be real helpful. And I'm going to get to some resources for that sort of thing in another video. So just stay tuned. That is a 12 bar blues with the 1, 4, and 5 chords in the right position. Practice that with a shuffle. A shuffle is kind of a loping rhythm like we just did there. Lots of blues songs have that shuffle rhythm. You might also have like a rock backbeat and a more straight rhythm, so practice that straight. Like a boogie or a boogaloo. Okay, that's rhythm, and that's real important. It seems maybe kind of, that's kind of boring, but that is the structure and the basis of songs. And if you're playing with a guitar band and maybe it's just one guitarist, no keyboardist or something like that, you want to be able to provide solid backing when it's his or her turn to take the solo, right? So rhythm is super important. And if you wind up playing by yourself, or maybe you play guitar and you want to accompany yourself, it's great to be able to do this. So that's where you start. Then, to get some soloing technique and some fills and that sort of thing, first you have to decide how you're going to make single notes. There's a couple of different methods. I learned years ago on my own to be what's called a pucker player. So that means I'm going to make my mouth as small as possible to fit around each one of these holes and try to get one single note out. So here again is the lower end of the harmonica draw with more than one note. You want to get down to one note. Let's say the first hole there. Right? Any one of those. You want to be able to get down to one note. Otherwise, your playing will not have any definition. It'll always sound like rhythm. Right? So you want to be able to get down to one note. I'm using the pucker method. Some people use, and I never learned to do this, and now it's kind of late in the game for me, but some people use what's called tongue blocking. And they will use a couple of different methods that I'm aware of. Usually block to the right with their tongue the holes that they don't want to play, all right? Or if you have the gene, and not all of us do, I can't do it, but if you can make a U out of your tongue, see, some people can curl their tongue this way, right? And make that U shape, you can do that. You can actually go right around either side of a hole and just get the center. Similar to puckering basically, but you're using your tongue instead of your mouth. So my method happens to be just going there as much as possible. I am told by some experts that all the Chicago blues players that I really like Little Walter and Big Walter, use the tongue blocking method, but you can't teach too many new tricks to an old horse, so I'm sticking with what I got. Anyway, once you get down to a way of making single notes, and practice this, it's not going to come necessarily easy right away. Once you get down to a single note, then you're going to want to try to learn how to bend, because that's what makes the blues, right? You're kind of taking minor scales and mashing them up with major and minor chords. And to do that on the harmonica, which is a diatonic instrument set up to play major tones, you have to bend notes. Now, a guitar player bends a note by pulling or pushing up a string and physically bending it while they're playing, right? We have to do that by extra air pressure on the whole of the harmonica. So if I'm playing a single note like right here, I'm gonna draw. That's a draw note, by the way. Almost all of these blues notes are draw. They're bringing air in. I'm gonna make my pucker a little tighter and pull that more air through that hole. to try to bend it, try to make the reed inside go like that, which changes the tone. Right? I'm kind of pushing and pulling with my mouth a little bit, and I'm putting extra pressure on it, and it makes the reed go bam, bam. You can actually hear it. Right? Different holes, you can still bend them all. Most of them anyway. And if you practice a lot, you can get notes in between, like 2 or 3 notes out of each bend. So if this is the way the harp is tuned here, and you can bend here and everywhere in between, you can actually get it to bend up nice and slow and put a little glissando, a little glide on that note. So once you start practicing your rhythm and then practicing your single notes, then you can try to bend some of those single notes, and that's where you figure out how to get your blues lines from. Most of them are draw, right? In fact, that was all draw, and that's like a little boogie pattern right there, just the way the harp is coincidentally laid out. It's set up for that. Right? So that's a good place to start. Basics of understanding just the little bit of theory behind key signature, that it's a starting place, that there's a key stamped on the harmonica, but it's not necessarily, unless you want to do the Neil Young thing, it's not the key you're going to use it in. You're going to use what's called cross harp to change the key. And then practice your rhythm, practice your single notes, and then practice your blues bends. And by then, you'll be ready for some other things to think about, which we'll get to a little bit later. And I'll also get to some resources that you can use to learn and practice all this stuff. And if you don't have a band, you can still jam along with some great players. All right, for now, that's it. Lee, get that harp out and start practicing.